So here we are on day 5 of our Leetcode 75 strong challenge. We have our problem here, Leetcode 345, reverse vowels of a string. This question appeared in a lot of different FAANG companies like Microsoft, LinkedIn, Amazon. In this question, they're asking, given a string S, reverse only all the vowels in the string and return it. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and they can appear in both lower and upper cases more than once. Okay. So for example, in this one here, we have input string here, IceCreAm, and we have to reverse all the vowels here. So the last vowel here was A, so it replaced that I here. So just changing the order here, okay? So the A was coming in the end, now it's gonna come first here. So, and it's gonna replace all the vowels like that. So hopefully you get the idea here. I am going to take a very simple approach here. I know there are very nice approaches out there, optimized approaches out there, but the first thing I'm going to show you is my approach here that I took to solve this question. It's not as efficient, but it gets the job done. So when it comes more specifically, when it comes to the space complexity, it's not as efficient, but for time complexity, it's the same as the optimized solutions as well. So let's focus on that. And yeah, I will show you how I did this one on my own. It's a very simple approach. What I did actually, I have this array here, and I will create a list of obviously the vowels, right? I'll create a list of those, the upper cases and the lowercase vowels, and I'm going to have that list. I'm going to use that list to compare while I am traversing my string. How I'm going to traverse that string? I'm actually going to create a list out of those strings. It's much easier to work with strings, as I mentioned in the past as well. Whenever you have a string, you can always convert that into a list, and then you can do your algorithm part, right? So I'm gonna take this input string. I'm gonna convert that into a list, and then I'm gonna traverse that list, and I'm gonna check every single element of that string list, and I'm gonna see, oh, it does, is this element a vowel? If it is, then I'm going to store that into a different list, okay? And I'm also going to be storing the indexes of that list. So for example, what position that vowel occurred. So I'm going to be creating two lists here, and I'm going to storing the vowels, and I'm also going to be storing the indexes, okay? So that's the approach I'm going to be taking. And then afterwards, I'm actually going to be reversing that list that I just created. I'm going to be reversing it because that's what they're asking in the question, right? They're asking to reverse the vowels. I'm going to keep those indexes as is. I'm going to reverse that list, and I'm actually going to then I'm going to go back to my string list that I just created from the input string, and I'm going to replace those vowels with those reversed vowels. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to show you real quick, so it will be very clear to you what I'm talking about. But this is my approach. Again, there are better approaches out there to solve this, which I'm going to be showing you as well, the optimized approach. But for now, the brute force approach that I'll be doing here. So the first thing first, I have this input string here, S. I'm going to be creating a list with that. So let's just call it list S. And this is just going to be list of that. So this will create that list. And now I'm going to be creating two lists here. Let's call them val list, empty list, and index list, where I'm going to be storing the indexes from this question. And now let's begin our traversing. Let's begin our looping through this list here. So and I'm going to be using enumerate because enumerate will give me the index and the value, right? So for index and val in enumerate, that's how you do enumerate in Python. List s, you can call it list str if you want to. Will be much more explanatory. So I'm using enumerate on that. It will start from 0. It will give me the corresponding value, that is corresponding string. And yeah, let's see. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to now do a check. If val in, oh, you know what? One thing I didn't create is my vowel list. So this gonna be here because I need to do that too, right? My computer doesn't know that. I have to specify this here. So let's take all these guys, A, E, I, O, U. Let's put them here. these are the lowercase ones. I also need them in uppercase, right? So A, E, I, O, and U. So that's our list. Now make sure to check if our the element of our input string actually is a vowel. So well in our list, then in that case, that just add it to our empty lists here. Well list.append, well, and we also need to append our index. For that, I have a separate list, right? Again, it's not probably a most efficient solution, but it gets the job done. So, and what is our index here? So index is just this index, and there you have it. Okay. Now, after this for loop is done, we will have our list ready, which contains all the vowels that were actually in that input string. And now, as per the question, I need to reverse it, right? Reverse only the vowels. So I have that vowel list. Now I'm just gonna reverse it. So just gonna mention it here, reversing the vowel list, right? And then it's just how do you reverse something? How do you reverse a list in Python? It's very simple. Well, list equals a list, and this is how you do it. This is how you reverse a list in Python. Now, what I'm going to do here is, now I need to replace this list string here, right? I need to, instead of the ice cream, for example, in this case, I need to bring in, so that was the first vowel, and the A was the last one. So now A needs to come in the front, and we just gotta reverse it, okay? So for that, and let's see, again, I'm gonna use enumerate here, index to replace. You can name it anything you want, but I'm just being more descriptive here. Okay, so what's going on here? So in this loop here, I am taking my index list because that's what I need, so that I know which positions I need to swap out in my input string. And obviously it was an input string list that I made. So this will give me the positions of all those vowels. And so that's what I'm doing here. So so this will be the position of the vowel. So in the list string, I am specifying those positions, and I'm going to replace those positions with my new reversed vowels, which is coming from this. And by the way, you might be wondering why I'm using enumerate again. The reason for that is it will give me again these indexes starting from 0. So it will give me like a right position of which element to pick from this reverse list here. So hopefully that makes sense. Pause the video if you don't understand what's going on here, but it's a very simple logic here, not that complicated. And in the end, I'm just going to do a return because they're asking for a return string. They're not asking for a list. So I need to convert this list into a string back again. So, and there you have it. Let's see if we run this, if that's the right answer. Running and accepted. Looks good. Let's submit this final submission here. And as you can see, decent, I guess. Memory, not so much. But runtime is 45.33% of people it beats. And so yeah, it's a pretty decent. It's not the most optimized solution, especially when it comes down to the memory part. But let's talk about the time and space complexity of the solution here. So the time complexity of this solution is going to be O of n, and the reason for that is, let's start from the top here. So when I'm creating this list from the string here, this is going to be O of n. Okay, nothing here. I'm doing this loop here again. It's going to be O of n because I'm iterating through all the elements of that string that list that I just created. So that's going to be O of n again. This guy here, reversing the vowels list, this is going to be again O of n. So we have O of n plus O of n plus this O of n here. And again, as you can see, I used a loop here to traverse over that index list that I created. So this is going to be again O of n, and this part is again O of n. So I'm seeing 4 or 5 O of n's, but in complexity analysis, you're not going to be saying like, oh, 5 O of n's. It's just going to be O of n. So the time complexity of this is uh, O of n. Okay, even though you have O of n like 5 times here, it's just actually like this, right? So let's just take this and so on. Hopefully you got the idea, right? But in complexity analysis, we only care about this one guy here, which is O of n. So O of n plus O of n plus O of n equals what? That's O of n. So the time complexity is O of n. Space complexity here, let's look into that. So let's see from the top what's going on here. So we have this vowels list. This is only what, 10 elements here. So this is going to be just, this is so small that it's just going to be O of 1. So it's going to be like in constant space. This guy here, this depends on the number of elements that we have in the list. This is going to be O of n. Okay, the space complexity is O of n here. In this one, depending on how large the list is, this is again going to be O of n. This guy is going to be O of n as well. Okay, because they both depend on how large that list is. If it's a small list, it's pretty good, right? But if it's a long list, you have to store all that in these two lists here. So O of n space complexity again. So we have O of 1 plus O of n plus O of n plus O of n. And this is just going to be, this is just going to be O of n as well. Okay, even though we had constant time here, we had 3 O of n's here. When you write it, and 3. Okay, even though you can write it like this, but when you have to specify it in the final solution, it's just going to be O of n. All of this will be ignored, this coefficient and this constant here, and whatever you're going to be left with is just that O of n. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. The space complexity is O of n, time complexity is O of n as well. We can definitely improve this solution by using 2 pointers. That will actually make the solution very optimized. That will make the space complexity actually in constant space, which is a pretty good thing.